What's up, internet? Welcome back to Sega Break. This is Linzer22. This month's episode is going to be relatively short because there's not much for me to talk about. I'm mostly going to talk about the free games that Sega was giving out that week for Sega's 60th anniversary. But before I just talk about that, I just want to talk a little bit about my experience with a game that I downloaded from Steam. I downloaded Binary Domain, and I was excited to play this. I know that not everyone likes it, and it kind of has a cult following, but I wanted to give it a chance. So I got it booted up on my computer, and I started playing it. I had a lot of issues with my controller because I guess there's some problems and that game hasn't aged well or something. So I had to figure that out. Couldn't get it to work with my Xbox One controller, so I pulled out my Wii U Pro controller, tried to set it up, then I realized I had to download Wii U Pro and figure that out. So I got that figured out. Then I started playing it, and I couldn't get past 5 minutes. Not because the game is bad, but because it wouldn't work. So I started playing it on just my laptop. It was working just fine. Then I plugged it into the TV and I tried to boot it up and it wouldn't work. Now, I'm sure there's a solution for it. I mean, this is PC gaming, and PC gaming is always going to be like that. It's going to take you a while just to play certain games, especially old ones. You need to figure out things, you need to Google things, you need to go on forums to find out what's going on. But I'm okay. I'm still excited to play that game. I just haven't played it yet because I just don't have the time to figure it out at the moment. But I will eventually get to it. For Sega's 60th anniversary, we got 4 free little mini games, and I've got a chance to play them all, and they're pretty interesting. So my opinions on them, well, I mean, they're free mini games, so I'm not trying to be a harsh critic on them. For Streets of Kamurocho, not sure if I'm saying that right, it's basically a Streets of Rage clone or reimagining, but set within the Yakuza universe. I played that, it's actually pretty fun. One thing I've noticed is that if you try to punch people diagonally, or maybe not diagonally, but if you try to hit them on a slightly different plane, it's a little hard to hit them. But honestly, I had a lot of fun with it. And then every time I see a boss encounter, you can tell that those characters are memorable characters. I haven't played too much of Yakuza. I played Yakuza 0, and I probably put in about 15 hours into it. And I really liked it. I want to go back and I want to play other games with that. I just don't always have all the time to actually really get into Yakuza. This reimagining is actually really cool because we recently got Streets of Rage 4, so we know that there is definitely a fan base for Streets of Rage. So I'm glad that they went ahead and did this because it gives both fan bases a thing for them both to enjoy. If you're a fan of Yakuza, here's a little mini game. If you're a fan of Streets of Rage, here's one level that you can play, or it's kind of like 2 levels in a way. I'm not sure. The next game I'll talk about is Armor of Heroes, and it's not good. But that's okay. I messed around with it for a little bit. Well, I don't want to say it's not good, because I've played tank games like this, and I never liked them. So honestly, in my opinion, would no matter what not have been good unless it ends up being an amazing tank game. Probably the only tank game that I really like is Battle Tanks, but that's from a first-person perspective, and the main reason why I like that game is because of the homing missiles. Very different games, both involving tanks. The third game is Endless Zone, which is based on Fantasy Zone. If you've ever played that arcade, it's actually really fun. It's just the aesthetics kind of look a little too cutesy. I know many people are okay with that, and that doesn't bother them. It doesn't bother me. But when I'm playing it, I can't help but feel that it looks ugly. But I assure you, the game is really fun. Well, I'm talking about Fantasy Zone. The game is really fun. I played Endless Zone. It feels like a prototype of what they can do. In my opinion, the bullets are slightly too small. It doesn't feel good to actually hit the targets. Actually, when I was playing that, I remember thinking this game feels like a game that would end up on the Amico. I don't know, just I would compare it to games we've already seen on the Amico. The graphics look like it's within the same realm of the Amico. It screamed Amico to me. which is interesting because before the Amico releases or announce all their games, it's starting to look like Amico probably already has a look, and I didn't even realize that until after playing this. Definitely has the Amico look. And then the last game is Golden Axe. Yeah, that's right, because it got axed. Yeah, so I played this. It's fun, and I kind of want more, but I understand that this was a prototype. So all of the things that were broken or just kind of feel weird, like, it's gonna happen. It's a prototype. It was made in 2 weeks. In fact, the person who actually developed this actually went on Twitter to kind of express his unhappy feelings towards the way that this was advertised. It was advertised as janky and buggy, and then Sega responded by saying that that's not what they meant, but we are sorry if anyone was hurt. And interestingly enough, when you boot the game, it says that they contacted the original developers, and the original developer on Twitter went on to say that who did they contact, because nobody contacted them. I'm sure the people that they contacted were the rights holders, or maybe not the rights holders, but the people who worked on its upper management, so who didn't actually work on it but told people what to do with their waving fingers. And interestingly enough, the developer that mentioned the horrors of making that game mentions that the upper management that saw it kept asking, where's the wow factor, where's the wow factor. When I see that game playing and it's only a prototype, that's enough for me to say it's a wow factor. It's not a bunch of boxes like bumping into each other, testing collision and would this work. I mean, if you've seen the Splatoon tech demo, it's literally white boxes shooting paint at each other. I look at this and I'm like, I can envision the final game right there. Honestly, what if that's the case? I'm not a game developer, but what if it's because there was no room for the executive to start brainstorming his little ideas? Not saying his ideas are good, because most of the time the executive ideas are not good. But what if that was his knee-jerk reaction? Like, he sees it and he imagines it, but it's not something he wants. And before the project started, because he didn't see a prototype, he probably had a different thing in mind. And he sees this and he goes, hey, this isn't God of War. I mean, Golden Axe, God of War. But if you guys played any of these games, please let me know down below what your opinions are. Just keep in mind that they're just mini games, and hey, they were free. The last thing I'll talk about isn't really a news, but it's something I found on Twitter that I think is really cool, and I just wanted to post it here and see what you guys think. So it's a prototype controller for the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, depending on where you come from. And the person who shared it was on Twitter. They go by the @handle Shane Battier or whatever. I'll have the name down below and the link to the image down below so you can see it. It's actually really cool, and it looks like a Joy-Con, but it looks like a in the tweet itself it states it looking a lot like the Virtual Boy gamepad. But the interesting thing about it is it actually detaches, and you have the D-pad in one hand and the 3 buttons on the other hand. And there even seems to be a trigger under, I believe, the D-pad or under the buttons. Not really sure. It's under one of them. I think it's the buttons, actually. So that's really cool. I would love to try this. Like, this looks really great. If you've seen any of my videos on my personal channel, you've probably seen that I like using different controllers for different things. I like to experiment. I like to see how different controllers feel in the hand, which games work better with other controllers and stuff like that. I even like the balance board as an example, as a way to input, as an input method for video games. So I'm open to anything. Unfortunately though, these are just prototypes and I will probably never get to try it, but I would love to. So if you are interested in any of this stuff, please take a look, maybe even follow the person. It's really cool. It's really cool when people uncover things like this to see what could have happened. And these ideas that we see as new were ideas that were being brainstormed decades ago. Well, anyways, that is the last topic for Sega Break. That being the 4th Sega Break episode. Thank you for listening, and if you want to take part in helping out in these episodes, please let me know. I will start to put an email address in there, maybe eventually, I don't know, something so that you guys can get involved. I would like this to be a community thing, like I've mentioned it in the previous episode. I'll catch you guys next month. Until then, keep dreaming.